sit, but it seems like the rain is holding people up, right? So my name is Hussein Mohammed. I'm with Sagar Radio. It's a radio program been around since 1998. Today we are here for City of Clarkston Community Forum. As you see, there's a history in Clarkston. I have never seen that many people running for the office. By the way, don't let my accent fool you. I've been here since 1986.
Yeah.
So I know the history of Clarkston a little bit. So I'll make my introduction very short. We're going to start on this right away. And I will let Erica handle from this point on. Thank you for coming. And please be quiet as possible. We're going to record these.
And the phones.
And the phone, of course. Turn it off.
All right, everyone. I'm Erica. You might remember me. I helped moderate the mayoral forum last week. And we're going to do the same sort of thing this week. We do have a few more people. So we will ask that you guys be as concise as possible. We want to get everyone to have their chance to speak. And then we will open it up in the last 20 minutes or so for questions from the public. And to start off, we're just going to go down the line. I want you all to introduce yourself. And in 1 minute or less, please tell us why you're running for the council, or if you're already on, why you would like to stay on the council.
Okay, I'm Laura Hopkins. I've been in Clarkston since 2011, and really it's a sense of duty to the city that I am offering my services to help run the city. I'm an administrator at the Emory University School of Medicine, and have been a business analyst and accountant. And I just think that my skills and experience could help to serve the city in a lot of the issues that we have going on right now.
Hi everyone, my name is Whitey Anika, but I go by Whitey Dale. And I've lived in Clarkston for 3 years. I'm running to reduce the safety issues that we're having here in Clarkston, create a sense of community, and promote economic development. I have experience working with vulnerable populations every day, so I work in mental health. In addition to that, I have a lot of experience in policy and politics as I ran campaigns, as well as I wrote pieces and drafted pieces of legislation. So I'm only here to improve Clarkston and press forward.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrea Strabone. I'm a Clarkston homeowner and I've lived here for a little over 5 years now. I have about 7 years of communication, child policy, and advocacy experience, and most recently I work in civic and social entrepreneur and innovation through the Center for Civic Innovation in Atlanta. And I'm running for city council because I want to create a more transparent and accountable city government where people all feel like their voice is at the table. I want to encourage our youth in this community and lift up them and actually have innovative solutions to help lower things like petty crime and give them somewhere to go after school. And I also want to support our local businesses and entrepreneurs and find innovative ways to lift them up and to make them marketable and sustainable and actually grow the impact they have in our community.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Schliestedt. I've been a homeowner in Clarkston for about 2 years now, and of course, you grow more passionate about your city the longer you're here. And being involved and seeing all of the nonprofit work that goes into such a really cool, unique city is just so inspiring for me to even want to be part of it. So I really want to bring to the table community engagement and bridge the gap between all of the nonprofit work that's going on and really take it on to the city to also be an advocate for those people. To incentivize more people to do small businesses, because what better place than Clarkston, where there's no challenges seemingly as much as other cities prevent them from being able to start up something. So I would really like to do that.
I'm Dean Moore. I'm an incumbent. I've been on city council for 8 years. I was in planning and zoning for 3. I've been a leader in the community for about 20 years, and we've made a lot of improvements to the city, and we're going to continue leading the city in the city administration and businesses together to make Clarkston a viable community.
I'm Jamie Carroll. I've been on the City Council since February of this year, and prior to that I was on Planning and Zoning for 3 years. In my day job, I'm a commercial attorney. I'm running for re-election because I want Clarkston to continue to grow, but in an affordable way that preserves the community that we've really enjoyed so far, and I want to use the revenue from our community growth to expand a lot of programs, including particularly public safety, and we need to provide more resources to the police in order to stop the wave of crime that we've had recently. And I want to use the affordable growth in order to do that.
I'm Chris Busing. I've lived in Clarkston since the year 2000. Started off with raising a family down the street. Both of my daughters have graduated from college now. I am a carpenter with a Bachelor of Arts degree in history, and I sometimes wonder if I should have been a school teacher. I love kids. I think I've run for city council on a few occasions before. I believe what I can bring to the table now is a force for common sense in government. I happen to feel that it's the present city council, or at least councils in the past, vote yes when too many things that they don't understand and they should be voting no. I have a lot of ideas for things that I'd like to see in Clarkston, like bring back a paper ballot election for one, and a little reconstructed railroad station over there so people can drive through and see that we live in the city of Clarkston with a big name on it that says Clarkston on the railroad station. And I do believe in Beverly's concept of a zoning ordinance for affordable housing, so that this gentrification doesn't mean forcing out people of lesser income who need to work here and live here. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you very much. My name is Ahmed Zan. I'm an incumbent. I have been elected in 2003 for the council. I've lived in Clarkston for 30 years, probably beat me by 1 year. And I know Clarkston. I have been there all that 30 years. The reason I ran for the first time in the office was to make a change, because I have seen there was no inclusiveness, there was no participation, there was no equality among the Clarkston residents. That was not by design. When I get to the council, I have found out that actually the council didn't have knowledge for the step that that's happening out there in the public, especially for the immigrant community. I was the first immigrant ever elected. Now that we have a well-balanced council, yes, actually most of you know that comprise the city, population. The reason I want to continue to, I can go ahead and see and let you know about all of the things that I have done with the help of the other councils, that I have convinced them that's needed to be done, but I don't have the time, so therefore the reason I want to run again and get re-elected is 3 points. The city of Clarkston is changing and it cannot stay a small city. For annexation. Annexation brings revenue, brings schools, brings more businesses, and it lets the city to grow, not to depend on revenue of traffic fines and other menial revenues. It becomes a big city. Population levels up, the employee of the city levels up. And 2, I would like to have a community center for the elderly or the people of Clarkston, all races, all ethnics, and the youth to have a place of their own. The city is already giving grants to Clarkston Community Center, and we want to enhance that. So we give them more money, or we ask the CAP to give the next building, so we will make sure that Clarkston elderly have a place of their own. Number 3 is the youth. Although, we have, Clarkston don't have a lot of crime, except very theft. We have young people that are doing straight, that, break in houses or cars, that we would like to help those young people and stop crime.
All right, we're going to have to move down to Warren.
Thank you, I'm Warren. o'clock. By the way, thank you to Cigar Radio, and thank you to our moderator. You have my thanks and my sympathies. Some people up here. I'm a former city council member for 8 years. Before that, a member of the Planning and Zoning Board, member of the Zoning and Planning and Development Committee as well, county folk. Former caretaker, current ongoing caretaker of Friendship Forest, our wildlife sanctuary. I've lived in Clarkston as of this month 23 years. I'm dug in, and I love my town, and I love where we've been going, the direction we've been going. I want to help it keep going in that direction. I want to see us, all 6 council members and the mayor, working with their city manager and staff, keeping us heading in the right direction. I want to see us realize our streetscape and transportation improvements are going to bring us some new, viable businesses, really help us with the high appeal that brings with it the increase in property values. I want to see it bring a bank in, things like that. That's how you do it, you know. Build a town by having some anchor businesses. One of them's got to be, we really need to get a bank in here. I can't go into too much of my program. We got a minute. Probably keep trying to tell me it's up. I'll speak to you later. I'm online. I'm on Facebook, and you have my numbers. Hopefully, if you don't, I'll get them to you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so this question is specifically about leadership style and how you as a council member plan to bridge differences that inevitably arise amongst council members and between the mayor. And as we heard last week at the mayoral forum, there's a little bit of contention with that, so we're interested in your individual plans to bridge differences when they inevitably arise between council members and also between council and the mayor.
First thing about the management style, I actually asked some former employees of mine how they would describe my management style, and one of them came out with one word. He said enthusiastic, and then he said, and stand up. And I said, what does that mean? He said, well, you will stand up for anybody if you feel they're right. It doesn't matter who they are or how high or low. So I said, well, I'll take that. That's good. So far as the contention on the city council, I honestly just feel like each person has to be willing to be accountable for their own words and their own action that serves on the council. We have so much that is really important that is coming before the council right now. And so I think it's important to keep our focus on what we're trying to do and what we're there for. All of us have other day jobs. All of us have things we have to do. And we just don't have time for arguing. I would not say anything bad about anybody up here. First and foremost, because none of them are my opponents. Whoever serves on the city council will be serving with 3 other people who are currently up here. So I'm just going to assume everybody's colleagues until after the election. We'll find out who's our colleagues and who are the opponents. Right now, everybody serves together. It's all going to be one team. It has to be one team. That's a decision you just make and stick with it.
All right, and I forgot to say, this is a 2-minute question, and I'm going to be better about keeping track. Laura did a great job with that one. All right.
So my leadership style is simple as servant leader. I'm only here to serve the residents and the citizens of Clarkston. And as a therapist, as a mental health professional on a day-to-day at work, I listen to people. I think some of the biggest problems that arise because people aren't listening to one another. And so as a listening ear there, the only way you're going to be able to address anything is if you're hearing the other person. And so that'll how I'll alleviate some of that conflict.
So my leadership style is communication-centric. Communications is what I do all day, every day. And I've been very fortunate through my child policy and advocacy work to actually work at the state capitol, working with the public and nonpartisan, all sides of the aisle. And one of the first things we have to do is actually hear each other and start from a place of empathy. Because no one is your enemy. Everyone wants to do the right thing. The number one problem that arises is things just get lost in translation. And it is my job to actually help people understand each other. I like to tell my coworkers they speak in PhD. They open their mouths and PhD comes out and people's eyes just glaze over. So it's not that they want to do a bad thing or don't have a great idea, but sometimes things just get lost in translation. And my entire job is helping that translation get bridged between people.
So I actually have some experience in management. I'm a manager for a small business startup. And we have about 6 employees. And it's been a really fun effort. As you can imagine, any startup, there's a lot of different innovations that you have to come with, and then new things that you have to implement to make sure that things are getting organized, staying on task, that customers are not getting upset. And that's been really fun. And you have to keep at the forefront of managing your people while also coming up with new resources to bring in-house rather than spending money for outsources that are probably double the cost versus if you just did it in-house. So we've renovated a lot of that in the company that I work for in printing. So I feel a lot of ways that the way that was done best is in collaborative work. I empower the other girls and guys that are under base to make any kind of decisions. Obviously, we have to have a consensus of how it goes together, but generally they can see that I'm allowing them to make a decision so that we can all focus on how we can move forward better. So yeah, I feel like that's definitely an asset to have your people with you on council. Yeah, to help. I personally am not going to be the master of every subject, of course, and neither is anyone else. So, for instance, me loving the idea of community engagement and wanting to partner with all other nonprofits, I think is my perk, and I don't think that I'm going to necessarily be the strength of like school collaborations and improving schools as much as maybe someone else would be, and I'm willing to say that.
Well, working on council, I've got a lot of management skills with building things. I've built operating rooms in churches and restaurants, houses. So as a leader in those fields, I've been very successful. And on council, it has been extremely successful. We've really improved the city tremendously. We've implemented a different form of government under my leadership. And the thing about being on a council or on a team is that everybody is a member of the team, and there needs to be respect between each of the members.
So I would describe my leadership style as collaborative. Since I've been on the council for the past 7 months, we've passed 2 major ordinances that I sponsored and drafted. That would be the outdoor seating and the tiny house ordinance. And for both of those ordinances, we had to get feedback from a lot of different stakeholders. You had to talk to the businesses with outdoor seating. You had to look at the ADA standards. You had to talk to each different council member and get the perspective on it, talk to the mayor, get his perspective on it. So I find that when you reach out to all different stakeholders in the community and talk to the experts, talk to people who will be affected by the bill, build support for the bill. If you're doing that for each piece of legislation, then what you find is you can eventually build a consensus and build the best bill. Whereas if you just did it by yourself and said, this is the way I'm going to do it, not only would you probably not even get the bill passed, but the bill would not be as improved as it is when you get the feedback from all different council members. So that's the process that I've worked with in my time on council.
I have been observing the Clarkston City Council for the last 17 years. It seems to me that more of the conflicts that have arisen have been a result of ego problems and personality conflicts as opposed to genuine disagreement on substance of the ordinances they're voting on or whatever. And I've also, for 35 years, have had to deal with every kind of contractor, plumbers, carpenters, and homeowners who all have their own personality problems, and in the construction field, there's a lot of that. I mean, I know of my own predilection to personality conflict. I'd like to believe that when I'm on the council that I know the difference between genuine substantive disagreement on the substance of what we're talking about as opposed to fighting with someone because I don't like that person or something like that. I believe that we should work it out to, that we agree to disagree and maybe conquer that problem peacefully and logically. Disagreement, if it needs to be conquered at a later date, rather than through fighting and yelling and screaming, which seems we've seen a lot of recently in the council. I hope that's a good commentary on what my leadership style would be.
15 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have been in corporate America before I came to the government staff, management style. I have had experience for that. I have MBAs for management. It's totally different. I mean, we have a council. We disagree. We never, six of us always disagree, we compromise. We discuss issues. Maybe the people are looking that we have to yell at each other, we have to be, saying, angry for each other. Eventually, this is not our business. The business of the city and for your business. It's bottom line to your dollars. And we disagree, we agree on what is right for the city. It has nothing to do with our personal egos. It has nothing to do with what we want. It is what the city and the people that lives the city wants. Yes, there is six of us. Most of the time we disagree. We agree on something, but still, if somebody is angry about what we agreed on, I'm sorry. Who's wrong? 6 or 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. I think if you have a set of principles that include treating people fairly and as you would be treated, and you practice those principles both publicly and privately with your colleagues, chances are you're going to end up doing all right. In my 10 years on boards and committees, commissions, and on the council, sure have been times when I fell short of those practices. But I also say in my own defense, as vice mayor, I was known to work with the council and the mayor, to be a go-between, to be somebody who worked to build a consensus. The same was true when I was not vice mayor, but when I worked with Mayor Terry, trying to get some things, trying to get some of his projects implemented, and finding ways to do that that maybe suited both the council and Ted's desires and needs. So I think having a sense that we're all in it together, it is a team effort, as Mr. Moore said, everybody counts, you need to treat each other respectfully. And when you do that, things are going to go well. When you're not going well, look at it and say, hey, who's getting disrespectful here? What's my part in it? How can I clean this up? But I think that council, by and large, in my years, there were rough times, but behind the scenes, you folks didn't always see there was a lot of work going on to build compromises and consensus, and to get beyond the pace, get back to what we
10
were
seconds
for,
left.
which was the people's business. Thank you.
All right, guys, a lot of you mentioned crime as a priority when wanting to become a council member. What is your concrete plan to ensure that public safety is a priority in Clarkston, that there's enough budget to ensure that we're able to retain enough public safety officers, and also incentivize them to come work here? It's a good place to live, it's a good place to work. What is your guys' plan to ensure that public safety is a priority and actually see that it can be implemented?
A couple of thoughts on that. The biggest and most important, I think, is collaboration with the police force. The police are probably entrusted with the most power, the most authority, and as a rule, just across the country, paid less and given less training than probably anybody out there. I think it puts them in an unfair position where they're often dealing with situations with people that may have various things that are misinterpreted. So ensuring training for the police on one side, so far as special cases, whether it is dealing with mental illness, with autism, things like that, that might help them to communicate better. The second thing is having an affiliation of community patrolling that works with the police. It's trained by the police to facilitate help with the police reporting things that they're seeing, which can be done, which costs very little because it's actually volunteer time on the part of the citizens. That's critical. And then also activities for young people to make sure that they're not just doing things out of sheer boredom. And that also can work with an awful lot of volunteer. I think we have somebody down there talking about teaching kids a lot of things, the programs that people can set up, and that works with the city council in collaboration with private citizens as well.
So one of my strategies is to increase sensitivity training for the police officers around the population that we serve. It's a very vulnerable population. There are ways that you can address problems so they don't become more serious crimes. Trying to figure out what is the cause or what is the problem or the initial issue. In addition to that, I definitely support more community and volunteer patrolling, as well as a pipeline program where we're getting these students that are in high school that may be interested in law enforcement and having some type of summer program, some type of summer academy where they're learning, what do you do? What does this mean? What are the training that's necessary? As well as collaboration with NAMI, National Association of Mental Illness, and them coming out here and doing crisis intervention training. Things like that are definitely necessary if we're going to truly reduce some of the crime that we're having here and make safety a priority.
So I think it's twofold. I think number one is actually engaging with the police officers, and number two, I think it's creating a partnership between the police officers and the people who are actually committing the crimes. So first and foremost, the majority of the crimes in Clarkston are petty crimes committed by juveniles, and we know the data about this. It exists. The problem is they have nowhere to go and nothing to do from the hours of 3 to 6. And when that happens, when kids get bored, they do things like break into cars, and this is not unique to Clarkston. This happens everywhere. So number one, I think we could do things like, very simple, that partner the city police officers with the youth, like having a police athletic league. Like people who actually, like when the youth are picked up after they've committed crimes, making them actually volunteer in the community that they committed the crime in, and creating that pipeline from the police to the community. I think we could also do things like have training for de-escalation with police officers, whether that looks like bringing in something like the Dharma Project and All Life Yoga, teaching them how to use meditation to actually manage stress and de-escalate a situation, or whether that is creating incentives to actually get the police officers who live here to look like the community they serve. So we could have a pipeline from Piedmont to actually recruit people to come and live and work in this community. We could have incentives for police officers to actually live in the community that they serve. And then I think there are interesting models that could be pursued around like civilian-led policing, community-led policing training, where the police actually train the community to get involved and actively participate in keeping their community safe.
So I have actually had a break-in at my house before, an attempted break-in. Middle of the night, obviously my cars were there. I have no idea how you can even be that bold. So it's invasive, and I can totally understand if it's happened to anyone else. I don't really understand the intention, other than maybe boredom, as she just mentioned, that it could be mostly juvenile related. And I think that if those same kids, if it is children or younger adults at least, if they're given some kind of sense of pride of what they can actually present to the community, whether they're really, really good at music or really good at yoga, and they just happen to also break into houses, maybe we can redirect them into what they're actually passionate about and make them more of a pride of the city rather than I want to go impact someone that's my neighbor that I don't actually know them. And I really think that all of this evolves heavily around just social reconnection. You're not going to want to break into your family's house. So if we feel like we all know each other via events and community forums and get-togethers that actually have participation, I think that will hopefully decrease, maybe it's wishful thinking, but we should try.
Well, first off, I'd like to sit down with the city manager and the chief of police and talk to them about what programs might be available to us. And then work together with the council to implement those programs, including whatever our budget is, and the success of the city.
I think that there's really two steps to that solution. First is providing more resources to police. We need to increase the starting salaries and allow that would attract more officers, and we need to also increase the number of officers so we can have more patrols. And I think as we continue to grow, both through development and annexation, Clarkston will have the resources to do both of those things. So I look forward to working with the police chief and the city manager to implement those plans. And the second thing is providing other alternatives for the kids. And they've talked, there's been a lot of speaking on community programs, and I agree that we can coordinate more with the many nonprofits to provide more community options for the kids. I think another part of this answer is jobs. I think if kids have jobs after school or jobs in the summer hours, that both fills up more of their time and also provides them more of a sense of purpose, provides them more income, which would, I think, decrease a lot of the crime. So I think as we continue to attract more businesses to Clarkston, provide more alternatives for youth employment, and decrease the amount of burglaries and car break-ins that we've been seeing.
I think it was Ted Terry a couple of years back who was trying to pioneer this idea of citizens patrols, and he was pointing to successes in places like Avondale Estates. And even before Ted brought it up, I've always thought that that would be a good idea to supplement patrol cars with residence cars, maybe with some kind of marking, not very much powers, but maybe a direct line to the constable on patrol and pepper gas, I don't know. But, and maybe some pay, and there's probably a lot of people that have the time to be able to do something like that. Can you imagine increasing police patrols or augmenting them from 4 patrol cars to 20 residence cars? I've seen numbers of incidences of what we call nickname catch and release, where the police almost just let them go, and I don't let the perpetrators go. And I don't blame necessarily the police department for that. I blame more the courts, because it's court policy. I've seen actual concrete cases of such things where these kids just let go. Crack houses on Mel Avenue that get busted 30 times in a row, and they're still crack houses, and they're
I think it's been sold. I think the crack house has been sold.
So there's police patrols. I've always felt that the constable on patrol should have a regular phone so that he can be contacted by citizens in addition to merely 911 notification from DeKalb, which is often cumbersome and doesn't work.
10 seconds.
No quotas, and the Fourth Amendment should be paramount in our concerns for reducing crime. The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, which applies directly to police departments.
I don't think the public safety of Clarkston is in jeopardy at this time because we're not a 5 o'clock news. The only crime that so far we see is, as Andrew says, a petty thieves, young people who are having phone breaking. I myself was a victim a couple of nights ago. This break, came my car, I left my car open because I thought there was nothing happening in here. However, one was probably the new candidates not aware of, let's say, the city have a budget. Right now, our police is only, there's 2 positions open that we suspended for budget reasons. And the news comes to that, it will be hiring. Not only that, the police we have, and the public safety, the detectives, we have excellent people that they don't need a training. We already taking training. And the council, the mayor, everybody knows that we are up to date for the training of our police. What we need is a community watch that, that is open their eyes and they see something, they just call the police. We have a very effective response. I mean, when I called 911, it was 1.5 minutes when the police showed up. So it's only budget reasons for that we call that police. In terms of the town, yes, we have small city with a limited budget. So we cannot compete with Brookhaven, Gwinnett, some other places that we can, more money and more benefits. But we're getting there. Once we annex the city and make it bigger, we need twice the force. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have to disagree with my friend on the response time to 911. Really, my flyer, one of my issues is under public safety is the very poor response time that I've experienced on many occasions, and many people I know have also experienced, and I've heard this throughout the years. One of the possibilities I want to pursue is coordinating and combining our efforts with other small towns in the area. Our own 911 service, independent of DeKalb County, we can offset the cost of much of that by opting out of the county system. So I want to pursue that. I want to see if that's something we can do. One way or the other, 911 response time has to get better. Too many times I've been in Friendship Forest, and at the insistence of our police chief, Christine Hudson, telling me, call 911, call 911. I will call 911 instead of calling City Hall, instead of calling Sergeant on duty, and lo and behold, nothing happens for 30 or 40 minutes or sometimes never. So that's got to be taken care of. Something's got to be done about that. I want to look into why 911 isn't working any better than that, and what can be done to fix it. I like my opponent, Andrea, and the lady, I don't know the lady next to you, but talking about things like police yoga on a voluntary basis, I think is a great idea. I think that can be, I think it can reap great rewards. Yoga has worked for billions, done well for billions of people around the world. Youth recreation program, very important. We need to find the funds for that through grants. I don't think we're going to find them through city revenue for a while. We're going to be looking at grants.
10 seconds.
Okay. We need to take up in our retreat, in our next council retreat, we have these hopefully on a regular basis, 2 times a year. We need to take up with our police chief, our policing policies and practices, and make that one of our main items going forward for our city staff to pursue. Thank you.
All right, guys, this is going to go back to a 1-minute question. And we have this asked from some of our community members. What is your biggest priority if you were to serve on the council? I know many of you alluded to that in your first answer, and obviously need to work together for city goals, but what's the one agenda piece that's most important to you to represent Clarkston?
I love Clarkston for a lot of reasons. Just illustrate my commitment to it. We just closed on a house for my mother here last Friday. And my biggest goal is to preserve what I love about Clarkston. All of the diversity, the various communities, and the collaborative environment that's already here. Although there has been some sort of scratchiness on the city council recently, there is actually not a stupid person up here on this panel. There is not a poorly educated person up here. I came from East Point, where I've seen war journalists break their teeth on city council meetings. It's a great city, and my goal would be to keep it a great city and to keep the growth carefully thought out, carefully planned. I think one of the most influential things the city council does is planning and zoning, and that makes a difference between having a beautiful work-live play area or maintaining quality of life for the people who are here, or having something like Brandon Mills. that's up to the city council.
So I would like to adopt an efficient and effective budget here in Clarkston that addresses some of the issues that everybody is concerned about, whether it's safety, whether it's a sense of community, or whether it's affordable housing. In addition to that, promote the economic growth. Like, if we don't have an incubator here to draw people here, then it'll just be us that constantly live here and that learn to love Clarkston as it is. There will be no potential growth. So really promote economic development here through an enterprise or a business improvement district is something that is also a priority for me.
Improving the marketing and communications of the city. I know that Clarkston is a great place to live, and I feel like everyone in this room knows Clarkston is amazing, but I feel like once you get out of Clarkston, people don't know about it. Even beyond that, the people in this city don't know what's going on in this city because the marketing and communications efforts that are currently happening are just not adequate. And I have the skill set to fix that.
So, as you can probably guess, I really enjoy community development. So, there's, I guess with community planning and zoning departments, there are limited numbers of spaces where you can support something that's on a low budget, of course, unless you were to just at the Milam Park. But if there's some kind of event that's 50 or more, of course you can gather something together for the community center to rent it out. But I mostly just want to showcase and work together how we can get those nonprofits and small entities of someone like he, yet again, brought up with the yoga concept, knowing that you can get an instructor that could come out and make a community of possibly 300 people that could attend and show up for an instructor that only costs $50. And that could be a weekly summertime event, for instance, that we could promote. And yeah, so I think that just small, low budget community development.
Yeah, I'd like to continue the economic development of Clarkston. We have a lot of new arrivals here that find the city very lovable. I'd like to continue that lovable aspect of Clarkston and move to the future negative tourist attraction.
I'd like to continue to grow Clarkston in a way that remains affordable for its current residents, to encourage more development of housing that also is affordable through inclusive zoning, as well as encourage existing businesses, as well as encourage new businesses. Because if we do that, then we'll have the revenue that we need for all these other programs. If we can continue to grow in an affordable way, we'll have the revenue for the public safety, we'll have the revenue for community programs, and we'll have the revenue for the other projects that the city needs to continue to work on its infrastructure. So that's my priority.
Well, perhaps not the most important issue facing Clarkston. For 17 years, my passion, and a lot of people here know this, has been to return the city to a paper ballot election, like we had when I ran for city council in the year 2000. It was paper, then we moved to computers. The state of Georgia has the worst verifiable elections in the entire, all of the 50 states. And the United States is the laughingstock of the world for unverifiable elections. India, Germany conducts their elections with paper ballots. You cannot hack paper, you can hack computers. Now, I'm not saying that anyone's cheating in our Clarkston elections, flip it to a computer. It's just that it's the right thing to do to go back to paper. And Clarkston's on the map for so many different good things and initiatives that the whole world is watching us for. This should be another one.
My number one passion is of economic development is annexation. Clarkston is not going to be the way it is. It's not going to be. It's out of 4 areas that's been proposed since I've been in the council. We were successful for 3 of them. There's one area left that we did not like this study that came out because upfront, the cost that the city have to put it on is higher than the revenue that's coming in. But we will do, another study because one of the things that I really want to have something to do and the city have something to say is the schools. That area is where the schools, the colleges, and there, and we don't have a say for it. It affects the city. A lot of people move out of the city because there is no new schools.
10 seconds.
if we move and annex to that area your property, tax will go down because the revenue that's coming out.
Thank you. Yes, I think any casual observer driving through Clarkston can notice fairly quickly there's a need for economic development in the town, and that is a top priority. It's hard for me to set that aside from me to knit our diverse community together, and that's a big one up there. But yes, economic development, that goes with it, really. I believe, just to spin off of what Mr. Moore was saying, yeah, we have a lot going on right now. As our streetscaping and our transportation improves, pedestrian crossings and things, as the look of the city improves, I think that economic development is going to blossom with it. I think we need to focus on our industrial zones, making them more of a job provider area, and have some very practical, and have some good, try to draw some good employment opportunities from those areas. So those are, there are a wealth of things we can do, just like Mr. Peasy, and I could go on and on. Thank you.
All right, guys, so this is another question from our community, and I'm a reporter, and I travel all across Northeast Georgia, and I see this as a very contentious issue, although I don't think it should be. But I wanted to ask you guys' thoughts about the Black Lives Matters movement. Why do Black Lives matter to you? Why is this movement arisen? And what should Clarkston do about it?
Wow, that's a big subject. I think the whole Black Lives Matter thing, a lot of people just make it a contentious issue because they think it's saying that other lives don't, and which is obviously not the intention of it. It came up simply because the way it was being addressed, too many times, unfortunately, it was acted as if Black lives didn't matter, or other marginalized groups were being brutalized and being allowed to get away with it. I completely do support the Black Lives Matter movement. Yes, all lives matter, but if you go to the doctor with a broken leg, you don't expect him to put a cast on the whole body. All bones matter as well, but just focus on the one that's broken right now. And that's one we were talking about earlier, sensitivity training and understanding the nuances of various and diverse groups. It doesn't just come naturally when you throw a bunch of groups in a room together, that everybody's automatically going to understand each other, everybody's going to know how to interpret various actions, various things. And we need, particularly with the police, everybody has the best of intentions of treating everybody with respect, but they don't always, and we need to just focus on where there's been problems. I don't ever want to see Clarkston come on the news as one of those communities that had a situation like Philander Castile. We need to make sure that doesn't happen here before it happens, rather than afterwards.
So Black Lives Matter movement is important because it kind of brings attention to a lot of issues that people that look just like me face that aren't addressed, that aren't even considered an issue because of your background or your lack of education or your lack of awareness on the issue. As a result of that, so I definitely support the Black Lives Matter movement.
I don't think it should be contentious. Black lives do matter. And I think that one of the biggest things we can do in this community, I don't think it has been a problem in this community thus far, but I think to prevent it from becoming one in the future, we just need to continue fostering those relationships between the community and the police officers who serve those communities. If there is that trust and that partnership, then I think that we can all operate from the position of empathy, and it's not going to be a problem. But I definitely support Black Lives Matter and that movement because they do matter.
I believe that everyone is really wanting to be heard, and I think that that's what's so great about Clarkston is because we are diverse, we have bigger power to overcome that movement and just to say that all lives matter, really. We all want to be heard and understood. So definitely I'm supportive of everything with Black Lives Matter. I can can understand that any time that you feel like you're marginalized or in any undercarried position, it can become frustrating, and it's very annoying to have to reiterate your purpose and to make it relived and reknown that you're being ignorant to the thought of why I'm also mattering, why I exist. So I definitely think that Clarkston has a really great way to bring that to light with our community being so diverse.
Well, Black lives do matter, and I think everybody's aware that the laws of the United States have been enforced on racial bias, and it's caused marginalization of people of color in many cities and communities. And I sponsored the Ban the Box arrest record application box for employment. I sponsored the marijuana ticket only ordinance we have in Clarkston, and that was based on the fact that these communities are being marginalized. It's pathway to poverty whenever you get a group of people that cannot get jobs. So I want to continue those kinds of efforts to make sure that we're all treated fairly and all have the same opportunities to avoid poverty.
I agree that Black Lives Do Matter. That movement is clearly reacting to real problems with racial discrimination that we have throughout this country. And I think one solution to that is community policing. I've been working with Councilman Mario Williams on creating a citizens review board, which would create a group of citizens that would provide community feedback to the police and also be able to investigate any complaints or accusations against the police. So I think that's one step to making sure the community is actually involved in the policing, and that there's an outside group to look at any accusation against the police, so there's not an appearance that it's just the police investigating the police when those situations come up. We've also provided body cameras for the Clarkston Police, which I think is a good step towards recording everything to make sure there's trust and transparency in the community in the terms of the policing that we've been doing.
I remember a conservative Republican Senator Rand Paul, when he was running for president. He very articulately made the statement that historically in our country, African Americans have been targeted by the power elite ever since Reconstruction for being put in lower places, imprisoned. I remember myself, whenever I get pulled into that Clarkston court like that, I'm sitting in the court, I'm the only white person in there, and there's 65 African Americans and African Africans in there. If that's not racial profiling, I don't know what is. Now, hopefully, I haven't been in the court for a while, but hopefully with Mario's efforts as a civil rights attorney and the work he's been doing with the citizens watchdog, or what it's called, things are a lot better in our court, and there's a lot less racial profiling. I've known several people who are active in this movement, and I've noticed at their lower echelons of involvement, their intentions are honest. I'm a little bit worried about the people who control that organization, the rumors of the Nazi George Soros being in charge of the overall organization, and a lot of people in Black Lives Matter don't know who this guy is. So I'm worried about maybe some of the higher level agendas for Black Lives Matter, specifically divide and conquer, creating more racial strife. But of the people on the lower echelons, the people who are actually, who I've met at least in the field, working with Black Lives Matter, I see honest intentions.
Yeah, Black Lives Matters, and I suppose that in Clarkston, we're ethnically diverse, and I hope we can have an involvement.
I believe that Black Lives Matter is just the start of it. I don't think it's getting anywhere near where we're going to go with this. I think we're seeing something starting in this country that's long, long overdue. we haven't seen black men stop getting killed, shot by police officers as they're running away or as they're sitting in their car. We haven't seen that end. Black Lives Matter is just started. And it's part of a movement that's also seeing the deconstruction of Confederate memorials that masquerade as memorials to a lost cause, great noble men, which for the most part are not. They are, as we know, monuments to a legacy of racism. And so I see Black Lives Matter as a very important, often painful, but very necessary phenomenon for our day.
All right, everyone, so we're going to open it up to the public for some questions, and I want you guys to raise your hand, and Hussein's going to walk over to the mic one at a time. And if it's for a specific candidate, please direct it at them. If not, I'm going to let each one go down and answer with just 30 to 40 seconds.
Hi. I have a question for Andrea. It's about good government. An important part of good government is to elect people who are independent and not acting as an agent for someone else. As the mayor's girlfriend, it is not unreasonable to believe that you will be his agent on city council. How does this promote good government?
Look, I disagree with that on a daily basis. If we were living in the 1950s and it was like a Mad Men era situation, I would say there's something to be concerned about, but I am nothing if not my own woman with my own experience, my own opinions, and my own independence. Anyone who has met me would know I am a contrarian by nature, and I will not hesitate to call anybody on the council out, mayor or otherwise, when I disagree with them.
Okay, I have 100 questions, but I'm going to do this one. I would like to ask about environmental issues. Will Clarkston find room in their budget in the next few years to put solar panels on some of the government buildings? Not necessarily to save cost, but that could happen eventually, but to model what we have, that we stand as a city for the environment. That's number one. Number two, well, the other one is still environmental, it's the follow to that environmental question, which is I'm very disturbed about hearing that waste management is not actually recycling or stuff. I almost had a heart attack when I read that, and I went out and asked the guy last week, and he verified it to me that they were not recycling. So that's two environmental questions. I think the waste management one should go to people currently on the board. I think the notion of solar power could go to maybe you guys, Fishing Group.
All right, we'll start with Warren down at the end, and we'll work our way down. Current members respond to waste management. Potential council members speak to solar panels.
Gosh, I don't know much about solar panels. I like the idea of solar energy. I like the idea of doing as much as we can to get us off the grid and try as many houses as we can. We could involve some kind of incentives for people building new houses or ancillary structures on their current lots that could involve some kind of breaks for using solar panels. Yeah, I'm all for that. I think the environment is extremely important. We have to be good stewards of our earth. I don't like, as a former council member, I'm sorry, I'm going to act like I'm a current council member here. I don't like hearing that waste management is dumping recyclables in one thing. It's one thing on my flyer that I state that I want to find out about and see what we have to do to correct that if that's the case. Apparently it is.
10 seconds.
People don't just complain about that from all different areas of the city without there being some truth to it.
So solar power came to the council, and actually it was a very suggestion. And when we were doing the projection for the splouts, we have a 15% that we have, at will, that we could do something different on the structure. And we still looking that if we can make actually the buildings for the city to be a solar panel, and I'm really voting for that. Yes, the City Hall and the City Annex, probably the Public Works.
Yeah.
And we're working on that based on the budget. We get the pass this fall, so you guys vote for it, that will be done as a test. And then eventually if it works, we just continue that. As far as the waste management is, we have a contract with them, so we actually have to look at it and send, the city workers and look at it if they actually doing the recycling or the,
10 seconds.
the people, most of the time people do make stuff, but it's something that we can go ahead and tell the city manager and public works to look at it and correct it.
I am definitely for off-grid technologies in power supply. Look at all the people and communities that are talking about being more electrically self-sufficient after this recent storm. There are technologies, low-tech technologies been around since World War II, and dirt cheap to implement using biomass gasification that perhaps the city could implement. I mean, the city is about to get $11 million, something like that, dropped on it with this SPLOST, and I can see the money being a little bit more creatively used than the way the council went and voted for it. Why wasn't there a section in there for off-the-grid technologies? Roundup should be banned. The state of New York sued Monsanto and won a large case for Monsanto's claims that the stuff is healthy, which is absolutely a deadly poison, and our city crew should not even be connected with using it.
We subcontract out the waste management services. If it's true that they are putting the recycling actually in the garbage and not recycling, that would be a breach of the contract. Trust me, as a commercial attorney, I take breaches of contract very seriously. And I'll work with the city manager to make sure that we get the waste management service to actually recycle if it requires terminating this contract and putting a new service into place. That's what we'll do. And as to solar, just very briefly, we have been looking at that option, especially with SPLOST. As the price of solar continues to decrease, I think that's going to be a very feasible option for the city buildings.
There's been developments in technology for solar, and as those continue and the price comes down, we'll look at that. I'm in favor of doing a project at the park, Mountain Park. Pool house is a beautiful roof for that, and we can power the entire park. As far as the recycling goes, I've been assured that they are properly recycling. We can look into that.
As far as budgeting goes, I'm sure that there's ways that, as he's mentioned, for SPLOST to take part of renovating that with each different household. There's also, I'm sure that everyone has already heard, Solar City, which is part of Elon Musk's new agenda outside of Tesla. Those things are becoming rapidly more and more available, and with the sizable numbers of how he's being able to reach everyone, I would hope that that's going to be something that could be realistic in the next few years of future. I'm sure that, I know on the West Coast that that's been adapted more easily recently, so I'm sure that that's something that could be looked into.
So I am a chicken owner, I am a permaculture owner, I am a composter, member of the Sierra Club. I take sustainability very seriously. And as I don't know if everyone in this room knows that Clarkston, along with Atlanta, is one of the cities who committed to be 100% renewable energy by 2050. And so I don't think it is just solar. I think solar is awesome. I think the first thing we should do is evaluate everything the city currently does, from recycling to the way we build buildings, permit buildings, and build sustainability into our city, into our budget, into the way we do business in the city. Not just solar. We should create incentives that actually encourage developers to build greener and more sustainable buildings. And through my work at CCI, I was very fortunate 2 weekends ago to be in a pitch competition where we got to hear pitches from local civic and social entrepreneurs. We had 4 people come and pitch about creating solar startups. So maybe there's a model where we can partner with these startups and create incentives for them to put solar on our business, on our businesses and in the buildings we're developing. I think those partnerships exist, we just have to be creative in finding the solutions.
I definitely think that more solar and sustainable options in our budget are very feasible. Keeping past solar panels, but more green roofs to create more. If we're going to really truly move Clarkston to be this safer and more progressive, we have to start with the smart growth efforts. So more sustainability, in addition to the streetscape project or walkability. So all those interconnect, and I definitely think it's possible to add something in the budget with it.
I also take sustainability pretty seriously, and to be honest, both of the things you mentioned, recycling and solar panels, don't hit the top 4 things a person can do to reduce their carbon footprint. This right here is unnecessary and a problem. So there is that. 2 of the 3 biggest things that you could do to reduce the carbon footprint are, one could be done as a city council member, one is a volunteer person. One of them is to go car free, and that is within the realm of the city council to plan urban design and planning so that people can live without a car. Right now, I'm in a situation where I absolutely couldn't live without a car. I'm within walking distance of a grocery store, a library, and a city hall. And the second is giving up meat, and I'm more than happy to give free vegetarian cooking classes. If we could get this space for free, I would give it to anybody in the city.
Thank you. Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Howard Yasu. I'm a councilman here in Clarkston. And I want to thank all of you who are really interested in serving in our council and those of you who want to continue serving. My question is primarily to the new candidates and probably the incumbents and also countertoning. There was a petition that the mayor was circulating last year and this year, claiming that he had lost some powers, and I believe some of you have signed that petition. I just want to ask you to give me one example of the powers that were taken from the mayor after he got elected in 2013, number one. Number two, if you say that any power was taken, tell me when was that taken? And if that power was taken, did the mayor agree with the council taking the power? But I want to make sure you tell me when, because I want to make sure I'm going to double check our minutes. Thank you.
That's part of this whole bigger conversation about the city charter and updating the city charter. To be honest, I can't tell you exactly what was in the city charter in 2013. I'm not on the council yet. I can't compare it. I've done a little bit of comparing in that I have been to some of the meetings of the city charter and had some input on what revisions or what cleanup needs to be made and what doesn't. I think it is very important to clean it up. There's a lot of ambiguous language in there. And I know that the goal of that is simply to clean it up. They can't make a change in how the city is run at the city level. That has to be done through the state house. But cleaning up is an ongoing process, and I'm happy to participate in that process.
Can you repeat your first question?
If you can tell me one example of a power that was taken from the mayor after he got elected in 2013. Plus, I want you to tell me when that power was taken, and I want you to tell me if the mayor also agreed with that power being taken or if he did not agree.
So I don't know if he agreed, so I can't speak on that. In addition to that, I don't know when. And my final response is, I don't know what conversation y'all had and what your charter looks like because I wasn't there.
I'm gonna be frank, I don't really care about what's going on with the charter or what's going on with the current council and mayor and all of the contention surrounding that, because in my opinion, it's not relevant to moving the business of the city forward, and that's what I'm concerned with.
And you're going to win. Yeah, I'm with you, Ray.
Yeah, I'm truly am not aware of what powers were changed or any kind of charter changes truly. I can only understand from all sides if we're trying to work collectively as a team. I guess that's considered power. And if no one's seemingly on the same side and can't find the same side, I can see how that could gratefully be a power that's being taken away. Especially if you're trying to be the main forefront leader of the entire council that's under you. I guess it was just going to be, is that just for us? Yeah.
Well, I don't know anything about any petition. I never signed one, of course. I do believe history is important, and we should keep track of personalities and the things that people do that we think are right or wrong in government and all that. But I tend to think that this one's a little bit water under the bridge, and I don't even know how important it is. Although I'm very interested in powers of the mayor and the powers of the city manager and the powers of the council. That's always been a subject that's interested me, and I've always had a philosophy about what that should be, and I think it's really more important that all of us come up with our own ideas, regardless of how the system is now, our own philosophical viewpoints of how the city government should be shaped, and that those philosophies translate to actual policy and words in the charter.
10 seconds.
I think the mayor's position actually should have a little expense account, maybe like $500 a month, so that we can watch the mayor do fun things and creative things over the year with $500 a month. Can't go wrong with that. That would be
All right, done.
$2,000 a year. Look at all the money the council blows on nonsense anyway.
What's a very live issue, and I'm running against the mayor's domestic partner. I'm running against Andre, so I don't really have a bone to pick with Laura. Is it Laura?
Yeah.
And but you did say you don't know what powers will take away, but you signed a petition to restore checks and balances. One of those balances that supposedly needed to be restored, one of those powers was the ability of the mayor to appoint a city manager. The mayor never got the power to appoint a city manager, to prepare and present a budget with the assistance of the city. The charter was changed so that we had a professional to present a budget to the council, with the council, including the mayor's participation. Now, you signed this petition, Andrea signed it, my opponent. A lot of people, some people who are running, and some who are supporting you, and the mayor signed this petition.
10 seconds.
So that, I don't think you can say that, hopefully, you'll read and understand what you're signing next time before you sign, especially if you get on the council. Exactly. You don't know what you're saying.
That's it.
Thank you.
All right. Do either of you want to respond since you did address it specifically? You don't have to, but if I can give you a minute.
Good evening. My question is, how long have you been a resident of Clarkston?
One question.
It's all related, okay? What involvement have you been in making and improving Clarkston that led you to the desire to become a city council person?
Is it just for the new members or current as well?
It can be to whoever wants to answer it, the new people.
Okay, we'll start with just the new. So how long have you lived here and what has your involvement been?
So I've lived in Clarkston for 3 years, and some of my involvement in Clarkston is I actually volunteered with the planner, Jason Hayes, when he was the planner for the city, and volunteered helping them with a lot of.
Jason James?
Oh, what's his last name? Yeah, Jason James. When he was the planner, so that's before Shawana.
So you mean planning and zoning?
So yeah, so I have a master's degree in planning, and my concentration is economic development. So I volunteer my time with the city to help them with some of the planning projects they were having, do some of their research and evaluations.
When?
I've been here since 2011, so for 6 years, and my involvement thus far has been strictly as a civilian. I've attended city council meetings, charter review meetings, and just as a citizen here, and where we started out, I just want to preserve what is going well here and keep the growth reasonable, keep property taxes affordable so people who live here currently can continue to stay here, and improve quality of life, not cost of living in Clarkston.
So I've been a homeowner in Clarkston for about 2 years, but I've lived in Clarkston for going on 5 years. And my involvement in Clarkston has been everything from going to city council meetings, charter review committee meetings, writing about those meetings, to being part of the Clarkston Green Street team and helping do things like tree plantings and cleaning up trash down Ponce and over by Earthtown. And honestly, like specifically, what got me involved in actually running is that I see that there is a need in this city around marketing and transparency, and it's one that I think that I'm the one qualified to fill.
So I lived in Clarkston, purchased my home about 2 years ago, and it's obviously a recent move that I've had here. So a lot of what I've done is more so just grassroots connections with my neighbors, and I think that's what this small city needs, and that's why I love it. And I feel like if we're incentivizing each other to do the same thing through, yet again, community development, small events, I think that a lot more can be done and a lot more can be said if it's just a grassroots connection like that around your neighbors.
What neighborhood do you live in, I'm sorry?
I'm on West Hill Street.
West Hill?
Mm-hmm. Right next to that Family Dollar.
Yeah, what, I mean, because that would make a difference
Yeah.
in who your neighbors are.
Castlewood's neighborhood. Castlewood's neighborhood.
And I live in the Oaks, so the apartment down Montreal.
And I'm on Poplar Street, right above Millennium Park, that's the block center.
Just Chris.
Well, I've been a homeowner here since the year 2000. I think that I probably, up till about a few years ago, didn't miss one city council meeting because I appreciated being able to get up to the microphone and speak for 3 minutes. Because I like my ideas, and I'm an idea guy, and I always wanted to put them forth in that forum. And until I stopped going a few years ago after I was falsely arrested in the city, because I got real demoralized over that, but I'm just getting back into things now. As far as accomplishments of mine, I guess I got a few war stories or two. Thinking about the time that the council wanted to take away our 3 minutes of citizens' comments, Dean Moore and the rest. And so I went down to Sonny Knox's house and was crying to Sonny about that. And Sonny said, well, you know what, we'll take it back. We'll pick it out in front of that city hall, which we did for 2 meetings. And as you know, government does not like people carrying picket signs out in front of city hall. So we forced the council to give our citizens' comments back 3 minutes at the beginning of every meeting. And that's why you have it now.
All right, so down the morning.
I kind of, I'm number 10 down here. Restate the question, please.
It was, how long, the question, I'm here, Debbie. Thank you.
Thank you.
The question was, how long have you been a resident here? And what have you done to make improvements in the city that is leading you up to
wanting to be a city council?
I see, thank you. Yes, so I've lived here, as I said at the beginning of our forum, since October of 1994, so 23 years. Longer than most people in here, maybe except for Pat Moore, she's been a lot longer than that. Yeah, and so from the time I got here, I discovered that Friendship Park was behind my house. Friendship Park was then. I got involved with Friendship Park, helped it in its transformation into a wildlife sanctuary. We're now in the process of implementing a master plan that I had a lot to, so the city council is in the implementing of a master plan that I had a lot to do with. And so we're seeing that should be finished up by the end of this year, hopefully. We're waiting for the county to get their act together and do the sewer line repairs on that. I have done a lot of work in city committees.
10 seconds.
I have, of course, been on the council and been vice mayor over a period of 8 years and been involved in many things, including the development of our dog park, our city swimming pool, getting grants for that. I'd like to continue to do those kinds of things.
All right, everyone, we got started a little late, so if it's okay with the panel, we're going to do 10 more minutes with 3 questions. Is that okay with everyone?
So the 3 questions will be Mario's and next. She's next. She's next. And final question for you.
And I wanted to thank everybody for running. I don't know all this question is directed at the candidates actually running against the incumbents. I don't know everyone. I know Andrea, I know Laura, and have a lot of respect for both of them. Thank you. I really mean that. The current council has done a lot of things in a lot of areas. They've done alcohol ordinances, banned box marijuana. There's a tons of stuff, tiny homes. And they've been pretty successful at that. You got Friendship Forest. So my question is, why do you believe, why should voters believe, and there's always work to be done, that you all will do a better job at promoting the interests of Clarkston than the current council?
Okay, I think just as having been a business analyst and being an administrator, I am doing nothing more than offering my services to the city. I don't really have anything personally to gain by being on the city council. I just think that they should have an option of using my services, and if the voters choose not to, I can serve in other capacities in other ways. I'm very happy to do that. I started out saying I don't have anything against anybody on the city council, and that's absolutely true. I just want to participate, I want to help, I feel it's my sense of duty to do so. And that's it.
So I'm a servant leader and I'm passionate about people. For the last 8 years of my life, that's what I've done. My education background is in criminal justice, political science. I also have a master's in social work and a master's in public policy with a concentration in economic development. So everything I do is to serve people, so that's why I'm running.
I chose this city, I love this city. I could have lived anywhere and I chose to live in Clarkston. And I'm passionate about making sure this city thrives and that everyone knows how amazing and unique this city is. And I can do that with marketing and communications. I feel like I've said this a few times, but I have 7 years of marketing and communications experience. It's what I do all day, every day. I've been to council meetings where there are 4 residents there, and they say they had no idea that the council meeting was even happening. It's because there's a problem in marketing and communications currently, and I can fix that problem, and I'm the only one qualified to.
I don't really feel like I'm running as a need to overturn anyone on council. I just really have a strong desire to love on Clarkston. I think that everyone brings their own set of values and what they're good at. And that's really what drives me. I just really enjoy the idea of collectively gathering together all of my community in very resourceful, creative ways.
Now, Mario, as probably appreciate your work on the council, to be honest with you, more than any others. This council and past councils make a lot of decisions that don't make much common sense. And as I said in my intro, I believe that I would be a force for common sense. You know, for one thing, and this is the same as my intro, traditionally, you vote on a lot of things, yes, that you just don't understand. And I feel it's like you're being pressured, and that to vote no would be an embarrassment or something like that. You know, all the damage that's been done to our country in the last 100 years has not been from good ideas for legislation that didn't get passed. Bad ideas. The Congress keeps voting yes, 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 yes on, and other local governments.
10 seconds.
They vote yes on bills that they can't even read because they're 80 pages thick.
All right, Warren?
Well, as I don't know all of you now, I'm running for the seat that's vacated by Beverly Burks when she decided to stand for the office of mayor. So it doesn't really apply to me. I'm not trying to replace anybody, but since I'm under my opponent answered, I guess I'll take a stab at it indirectly. No, I don't want to see anybody replaced. I actually like all three incumbents very much. I think Mr. Moore has a wealth of knowledge. He has improved his skills astronomically through over the 8 years that he's been in office. He's well on his way to a certificate of excellence from Carl Vinson School of Government. He's taken many seminars of urban planning and so forth. Jamie Carroll has done a great job so far. He's an attorney, has an attorney's mind for things. We always do well having that. We have another attorney, Mario. If I can't get in touch with Mario, which I usually do, I'll get in touch with Jamie. And similarly with Ahmed. Ahmed has great skills as an accountant, and that comes in very handy with the budget. I don't do very well with numbers. I depend on others. So I will work with whom the voters choose, and I will do my very best to be a voice for consensus and people working together. Thank you.
Good evening. I've been resident of Clarkston for about 6 years, 6.5 years. And I have a comment more so than a question. During your introductions, you gave some background on where you come from, where your walk of life brought you to this place. Then you talked about your political stance, but then we talked about a serious matter, and I was a little taken back by one of the responses. Candidate one, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Laura. Yeah. Addressing Black Lives Matter is a little movement and trivializing it with those words. They may not have seemed like you did with your words, but it's just like if a child was very serious, or you were very serious about something that you're passionate about, or something that means a lot to you. And as in a child explanation that I'm trying to use is that they come to you with something that's serious to them. And then when they bring it to you, okay, whatever, you go off, and the child is sitting there devastated because it meant a lot to them. So that's the way it feels when words like the little thing, or something that trivializes something that is not a campaign phrase. It's a fact. It's a statement. It's not something that was made up. It came off of a sign that said, after us being killed so much, Black lives do matter. It was a statement. It wasn't a movement. So and that type of mentality, in my opinion, it's human nature for us to trivialize some things, especially when it's done repetitively. When it's said repetitively, we get into a certain mode. And I think that's just human nature. But if you want to be servants of a community, you have to recognize that Black lives do matter. It's not a slogan, it's not a commercial, it's a fact. And that's all that Colin Kaepernick was saying when he took a knee, that black lives do matter. It wasn't to be trivialized on campaign statements, like I said. So I encourage you to go outside of your box, that comfort box that you're in. If you're going to serve everybody, you need to realize that your decisions matter to everybody, not just your section of life. And that goes for black folks as well. So I just wanted to say that to you and just recognize that kind of hit a little nerve.
All right, I'm going to give Laura 1 minute to respond.
I'll respond to that. May I just, go ahead.
Well, first thing, may I get your name, please?
Gail Brown.
Okay, Gail, first thing and foremost, I would like to deeply apologize to you if I said anything that sounded like it was trivializing that movement, because I don't think it's trivial at all. I was the first one given that question, and I had to run through my mind what I was going to say, and I'm just like, you know what, I got to go with the heart. When that happened, that Philandro Castile was killed, I was out in the streets, in the parade with the Black Lives Matter people, and there were unfortunately very, very few people out there that looked like me, but I did leave work and take to the streets in downtown Atlanta from Grady. It is an important movement. I know there is a huge history there. I know that well, it's very loose as an organization, but I know that it is significant. It is representative of a significant problem that's been going on for hundreds of years, continues today, and has to be addressed. So I do want to apologize. I did not mean to trivialize it. I don't think of it trivially at all. At all.
All right, we have one last question.
I just want to say something to you. I don't know you anything, but I talk to you.
No, that's Ms. Davis go. No, let Ms. Davis go first.
I'm so sorry, but I was supposed to be at a wonderful birthday dinner at 3 o'clock, and I wanted to come to this forum because it's so very important that we get the messages out. And congratulations to everybody who wants to be a part of serving this wonderful community that I have been a part of it since birth. So, with that said, I had 20 questions written down, but I have been just jump-started somewhat with all of the answers and the comments and the questions as well. But, oh my gosh, all of them are important. But I just want to make a response, Gail, to what was just here. As most of you know, I was an educator for 40 years. And there are a lot of things that can be said from one person. And when you're educating 30 people, there's a possibility that you're going to have 30 different interpretations of that. So I'm not saying, say the way that it was said. I heard this. I think the statement goes, Black Lives Matter. They left out do matter, and they also left off Black Lives Matter too, meaning also. Perhaps if something like that had been injected, that would not have been such a misunderstanding of what was meant, what that statement meant to be. I understood what you said. A lot of people misinterpreted how and what was said, like, well, the people of different colors, maybe let's just say whites or other races, might have heard over filtering over something else that Black lives are the only ones that matter. No, that was not what was being said. All that was being, to me, all that was being said is Black Lives Matter, and I said too, T-O-O. Black Lives Matter too. And a lot of times it's misinterpreted, but that's what I heard from you. And I want to say that, can I just do one more question? One more question here, Oh, thank you. It was just so very many questions. And I've heard why you wanted to be. Oh, this is the one that I wanted to touch on before I leave. Many of you are saying, and you have lots of expertise here. It's a lot of it. And we have in this community, this neighborhood, this city, a lot of resources. But the most important resource is the human resource. Now, you can bring degrees, you can bring paperwork, you can bring all of that. But if it's not applicable to the human beings that are here, it's not going to work. I won't say it's a possibility that it won't work, it won't.
That's right.
Because that's your main resource.
That's right.
Are the human beings that are here. So I didn't hear anyone get to that level of it. But that's to be considered. Put it priority, please. Put it priority. You can say you did this and did that. And along with that, think of what you're doing right now. Currently, I heard what you said, so what have you done? Currently, what are you doing in the schools? I heard you talk about children. That's a passion for me.
That's right.
If you want to get at the level or that want to run off your house, what are you currently doing now with all of your expertise to integrate that at a young age? Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
so the
I want to be a good
the last question here.
He's going to say something quick and easy.
I understand where you're coming from and what you heard, and I appreciate how you feel. I did want to say this, though, that I have talked a lot with Laura, and I know her, and so to the extent that it was interpreted that way, I just have never seen it with that type of person, and I know some of the activities that she was involved in, and I absolutely appreciate where you're coming from.
All right, who's saying this is the last
So
question?
this is the last question. I know some of you have to go home and cook for dinner. So it's been 2 hours so far. So there you go.
So I'm going to make a statement on behalf of the city.
Could you say
And that is one of the candidates could not be here tonight because he had a death in the family Friday. So he had to leave town. And that's Mr. Grand Hassan Salim. He had a death, his sister died, so he had to leave out of town. So that's just to tell you that the reason why he's not participating with you. My question is this. Clarkston is 43% foreign-born, 32% African-American. With that thing, I would say that race is in the matter of this election. It's right in the heart of it. And I think you can see there is 7 Caucasian on the table, 1 African-American, and 1 immigrant. What is the plan to make Clarkston more inclusive? We hear at every election buzzwords that are being used, ambassadors, whatever, but nothing has actually came through. What is the plan to include the foreign-born and the African-Americans? Because as you can see the civic engagement is totally happening in the white community, but it's not happening in the minority community.
Start forward at the end and come back this way.
Put me on. Wow, if I had the total solution to that. One thing I'll tell you is I think to have more of the kind of thing that you do, Sonia, which is involving the interfaith, extended weekend, interfaith immersion. I was involved, I had the privilege, very, very distinct privilege of having been able to participate while I was still on council in Sonia's in one of the 3-day interfaith immersion weekends that Sonia and Judy Marks and a couple of other ladies sponsored, facilitated, had wonderful speakers, and in involvement with Jewish communities, with the Jewish Worship Center, with the Indian Temple in Milburn, beautiful visit. We had dinner with the Jewish synagogue in Sandy Springs.
10 seconds.
Went to the mosque here in Clarkston, to the Buddhist temple. I mean, this is an incredible this is the kind of thing that I think builds bridges, cultural, religion, getting people together in a common atmosphere is going to help. That's just, I'm sorry, in a minute, that's the best I can do. I'd love to go on, and I'd love to talk to you more. I really honor what you've done. And
Okay. Well, I have to say something because I know more about inclusiveness. I run on a platform of inclusiveness in 2013. And when I went to the council, I mean, actually, what I found out that was the council was not aware of what I brought it in to have been done to make inclusive to the immigrants of the city. I don't have much of a time, but I'm going to give you an example. When I went to the council, I let them know that the city actually uses the immigrants as a revenue, cash flow. People have been given for 13 tickets, and I'm present for it. People have been fined for $1,000, and the council actually realized that, and they changed the entire process. And today, we don't issue the tickets that we used to issue. The city finds revenues through annexation.
10 seconds.
And it's still a lot of work to be done. But the inclusiveness with the current council and the mayor is ongoing.
I cannot profess expertise on this subject, and I don't really have a concrete plan in my head. And I hate to admit that I don't know if the council actually has a concrete plan. I know what I believe in for people. I believe in human rights. I believe in natural rights. I believe in constitutional rights. I echo what Hassan said about the damages that have been done and mistreatment of peoples by the police in the past. And hopefully that's stopping now. I don't know, but I intend to find out what city expenditures and how the city is stressed by the immigrant populations in terms of the monies that the city has to spend.
10 seconds.
I don't know how much the federal government is filling in its proper role because they send immigrants here. And I don't really know what our role as a city should be delineated from or separated from the federal government in terms of being a welcoming city, but I intend to find out more.
Great question. I agree that Clarkston should continue to be a welcoming city and should try to reach out to get diverse viewpoints from all the different diverse communities in Clarkston. There are several ways to do that institutionally. Part of that is with the Citizens Review Board. We create a board of citizens that can continually give feedback and review to the police, which would let the different communities that right now may not feel like they have access to talking to the police or getting the police feedback, have that access. Another way is the committee system, where some of the citizens may not know, but we have committees dealing with housing, with infrastructure, with legal, and there are citizen spots in those committees. So I think we should make sure those are provided to the different diverse communities so that communities can give feedback on the different issues that are important to them. And then also, as we pass ordinances, we need to make sure that we reach out, not just our friends and people we know, but to everyone who's affected by those ordinances to get the community feedback and to get the diverse perspective. So it's not just the people at the table making the decision, but it's people throughout the community.
It is very difficult to get people involved in the community, and I've been out in the community with every group that I can think of, and I think people look to me for leadership and getting people to run for council and people to get involved in their individual communities to come forward. I think it's very important. So I hope we can continue that.
So, clearly I'm a white female, I'm younger, and in the there's an inherent expectation for a female to be certain ways, of course, just as any sect of anyone is. So growing up, I had a chance to do a web development course in school. I was one of 3 girls, I think, in the entire class of almost 30. And it was a choice class. I was able to choose to take that. No one specifically led me to that. I was happy to be a bold enough person to step out and go do that. So yeah, I was definitely an underdog. I was an outsider on that. And so in the same way with Clarkston, I feel like you kind of hit it on the bell. You said ambassador. I think that with my expectation of wanting to do city, like community development, meaning with the people, that means that the people have to be the ambassadors for their individual sects. Communicating with the nonprofits that already exist and already have their established communications with your exact community is how the city needs to connect with the ambassador to get the events known.
So, in my opinion, it's twofold. Number one, I think it starts with creating programs. So I would like to replicate some of the work I've done with organizations like New Asian Americans Advancing Justice and New American Pathways, where we actually create programs that get people from the community to actually come out and engage with not only city government, but other people in their community. So whether that looks like doing business lunch and learns, or doing civics 101 courses, or creating a civic innovation fellow program, where we actually have entrepreneurs in the city from all sects applying to learn about business development, to actually have their ideas lifted up by the city. The second part of that is, again, marketing. We need to do a comprehensive SWOT analysis of what the city currently does and find some of the low entry points we could be engaging with the rest of the community. Whether that is evaluating all the current materials and identifying which ones can be translated into other languages, for instance. It's going to start with that analysis.
As I've indicated in previous responses, I'm very passionate about people and meeting them where they are. I'm not expecting people to join communities or come on board as ambassadors. I need to meet them where they are and meet their expectation, ask them exactly what they need and what they want in order to make this community more inclusive. In addition to that, coming up with programs for the summer for the little girls that look just like me, that have low self-esteem, that wouldn't, or the confidence never to run. It's very difficult for me to run, and people say, the mean things that they've said to me, because my real name is Vice Mayor Mika. As a result of that, people have said that my name is strange, or they don't know what it is, and I'm just glad that I don't have to share my name with anybody else.
Has anybody in this room, just by a show of hands, ever been through the exercise of doing a privilege walk? Everyone? Okay, this is something that we did with our church, where they lined everybody up. You start out shoulder to shoulder, and they ask you questions, and if you can answer yes, you take one step forward, and if it's no, you take one step back. And the questions are like, neither of my parents have ever been to jail. If it's yes, you take a step forward. One or both of my parents have a college degree. You take a step forward. And they're all questions that have nothing to do with your personal skill, your things you've worked for, things you've achieved. It's circumstances you're born to. And we finished it, and my nose was pressed against the wall because I was the most privileged person in the room. Okay, I recognize that, and that's just what I was born to. I was born to a white, middle-class family, 2 college-educated parents, in the richest country in the world with the most strong military. There's nothing I can do about that. But people who had born in different circumstances, who have worked much harder than me, maybe much smarter than me, and didn't get as far because of their circumstances, I do see that I have a duty and responsibility to try and level that up. And there's a lot of different ways that I could do that, some of them through city council, some of them on my own. One is maybe a local Clarkston Civics Association to educate people on how to get involved, what's coming up on the ballot, what referendums are coming on the ballot, who are your DeKalb representatives, who are your other representatives, and just pull people in and engage them, because not everybody has the free time to do what we're doing in this room right now. Not everybody, there's people out there who would do well, but they're working 2 jobs. We've got to pull them in any way we can.
All right, I want to thank all of our candidates. This has been a great conversation. I'm going to give Hussein the last moment here to talk about our upcoming fundraiser, right?
Yes, we have a good fundraising coming up in October 21. It's going to be a lot of different kind of food and dancing, every kind. So please come and join us and support us at Clarkston Community Center at 3 p.m. on Saturday. Thank you.